Hi, this is Don McAllister and welcome to another Screencasts Online weekly tip video. With so many children using iPads and iPhones, this week I take a look at how you can use the built-in restrictions in iOS to tailor the iOS experience for a minor. We'll take a look at setting up and using restrictions on the iPad on iOS 11, but it's exactly the same on the iPhone as well. Before I do go into restrictions though, just take a look at the home screen. Two things to point out to you. One, I've got full access to the camera here. I've got the camera icon in the top corner and also access to Safari down in the dock. So let's go ahead and set up some restrictions, and I'll start off by restricting access both to the camera and to Safari. So if I go into settings and then within general, there is an option down here for restrictions, currently off, and then the option to enable restrictions. So if I just tap here, I need to set a passcode. Now, just a couple of things about the restrictions passcode. The passcode doesn't appear when you're using the iPad or iPhone. This is purely a passcode to allow someone who knows the passcode to go in and set specific restrictions. So it won't pop up when you're trying to use something that's restricted. Basically, restrictions work by removing that option from the iPad or iPhone. Also, if you forget your restrictions passcode, you have no recourse other than to wipe the device clean and set it up as a brand new iPad or iPhone. You can't recover the restrictions passcode. Now, as usual for demo purposes, I'm just going to keep this very simple, 1234. It is just a 4-digit passcode. You would obviously set up something a bit more complex than that, but we're now in. So first off, we can go ahead and restrict access to certain applications. So this top section are standard iOS applications. So if I take off Safari and if I take off the camera, and then we come out, you'll see that the camera has disappeared from the home screen and also the Safari icon has disappeared from the dock. Let's go back in and have a look at some more restrictions. So enter my restrictions passcode. Oh, you'll notice as well, by the way, that FaceTime has now been disabled because I disabled access to the camera. So standard iOS applications at the top. Then we've got the iTunes Store, music profiles and posts. So these are all toggle settings. I can switch these on or switch these off. Options to install or delete apps, and also a restriction to disallow access to in-app purchases. Probably you might want to do that if you're dealing with a child so that they can't go ahead and buy any in-app purchases. So as well as access to apps, there is also access to services and content as well. So if we scroll down a bit further, so allowed content, I've currently got my ratings set up for United Kingdom where I'm based. You can change that to your local country. This appears where you go into something like, well, if I wanted to restrict films, I can tap all. I can see the ratings for UK films here. So if I wanted to restrict access just to say U-rated films, I'll just tap on U, and that's the only rating of films that the person using the iPad can view. I can also say don't allow films completely, but we'll probably stick with just the U rating. Back out of restrictions. So we can do similar things for music, podcasts and news. If I just tap on here, we've got the option to not allow any music, podcasts and news rated with explicit tags to be restricted. We've looked at films. We've got the same for TV programs, for books. Let's have a look at books. So explicit sexual content, you might want to switch that off. Apps. When apps are submitted to the App Store, the developer has to give it a rating. So you can now, based on the rating that the developer has given to their applications, restrict access to those specific apps. Now, there are some anomalies here. For instance, with the ScreenCastsOnline magazine, that is rated 17+. And the only reason it's rated as 17+ is because it does give you unbridled access to the internet through the application itself. So Apple will deem any application that gives you access to the internet as 17+. But again, you can go in here and select the correct restriction for your particular charge. Options for Siri, so explicit language or web search content we can switch off, and then websites. So all websites, or we can just limit adult content. Now this allows you to add a particular website or to exclude a particular website. If you really want to be in control though, you can say specific websites only, and that will give you access to all these pre-vetted websites, and down at the bottom you can add additional websites as well. But I'll go ahead and we'll leave it at all websites for now. I'll just come out of restrictions again. Options for privacy, so all the different location services. Contacts, so whether or not you allow changes or don't allow changes. and also prevent apps accessing contacts. And then the other privacy-related services that you might want to restrict any changes to as part of your general restrictions. And then down at the bottom, we've got Allow Changes. So if you want the person to be able to change accounts, to change the background app refresh settings, the volume limit or TV provider, you can do that in there. And then also options for Game Center. You'll notice, by the way, if I go back up to the top, there is no restriction to the settings app itself, where the restrictions are controlled, but you can, down at the bottom, go into some of the settings here to restrict access or to stop changes. So a pretty comprehensive way of locking down your iPad or your iPhone if you do want to restrict access for younger people. If you want to learn more about using your Apple devices, there are over 700 full video tutorials available to Screencast Online members, covering all aspects of the Mac, iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, and even the Apple TV. Now, all full members receive a new Apple-related video tutorial each and every week, as well as a free subscription to the Screencast Online monthly magazine, packed with videos and articles on getting the most out of your Apple devices. Now, you can get your free 14-day trial membership over at ScreenCastsOnline.com, or check out some of the free content over on the SCO Showcase app on the iPad, iPhone, and Apple TV. That's it for this week. I'll be back next week with another tip, so I'll speak to you then.